Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Just Get Started podcast. I'm your host, Brian Andreyko. I'm grateful to have you here today. I just want to give a quick intro to this episode with Andy Milligan. I met Andy many months ago on LinkedIn, and we've kind of become fast friends. I was on his podcast earlier this summer, so I invited him on mine, and we had a tremendous conversation. Now, we hit record well before we actually started the quote unquote episode. So we had some good insight at the beginning. He was asking about, reaching out to certain guests for his podcast, and that got us down a little rabbit hole before we actually jumped into, the main portion of the podcast. So you'll notice that this picks up right into a conversation that we had probably a good 10 minutes or so before we actually start the podcast. So just wanted to give you that insight before we actually jump into this. So when you get on, you're wondering like, where are we at in the conversation? Well, this was sort of like pre-taping, and we just decided to leave it in because I think it's good insight and hopefully good advice for anyone that is scared about doing things or kind of hesitant to start. It might be a kick in the pants that you need as well. So again, grateful to have you here for another episode of the podcast. And without further ado, please welcome in Andy Milligan. It's like, why not email set?
I not it's not because I'm scared. Partly because he's not a huge like for me it would be bigger from like the J ask is a little bit more nerve wracking for me than Seth.
Okay.
Like I've read some of Seth's book, like that purple book right there. That's Purple
Yeah.
Cow by Seth Godin.
Yeah.
Um so it's just I feel like I don't and I'm like not as enamored with him as much as I am with Jay or someone like that. So I don't know. I also get so much cold email too. Um, Not like personalized pitches. I don't get many of those because if I did, I would definitely respond. But I don't know. It's part of it is just the natural human inclination of not wanting to go outside your comfort zone, and I'm trying to be more
Yeah.
self aware of that too. So
Yeah.
you know,
I nothing. The thing is, nothing happens if he says no.
right?
Everything could happen if he says yes.
Yeah,
This literally
you're
just
right.
happened. I'll tell you this story because maybe this will be a kick in the pants for you. My 13-year-old, he's in middle school, and he's been doing band for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had back and forth. He's loved it. He's hated it. He's been back and forth. Well, springtime came, a few months ago, and he said, um, electives, they're picking electives for eighth grade. And I said, dude, are you going to do band again? There's a lot of other electives you can pick. You can stop band if you're going to be complaining about it. I was like, I don't want to hear that. Like, if you're
Mm-hmm.
focused on it, you want to do it, you do it. And he's like, he's like, yeah. He's like, no, I'm going to do band again. I'm like, okay, you're sticking through. You're doing it then. No, whatever. So we committed to it. Well, a week ago, I pick him up for his mom's, and he's kind of complaining a little about band. He's like, I haven't practiced as much. I don't know if I'm ready. I'm like, dude, you got to practice. You got to focus. You said you committed. He's like, I know. I don't know if I want to do. I said, do you want to switch? He's like, well, I don't think I can. I said, that's not what I asked. I said, do you want to switch from band to something else? He's like, yeah, I would if I could. I said, okay, well, then here's the lesson I'm going to teach you. I'll reach out to your principal tomorrow on your behalf. I'll tell her that you're committed to band if there's no other options, because this is literally they start school in a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but if there's electives, we'll see if there's options, and then you can do those. I don't know what they're going to say, but basically I told him, I was like, I'm teaching you a lesson of you don't get anything unless you ask, but you are going to take responsibility if that's the route, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, nope, no problem, Mr. Andreyko. We'll help you out. We got some electives available. Boom, switch them. Just got the email earlier today, and he's switched and he's got new electives. So he's no longer doing band.
Yeah.
Now, I don't, and we had to talk about this because like he felt, well, I don't want to quit. I said, that's not quitting. What you're thinking about quitting, I was like, that would be like, you did it for a week and you're just, threw it away and you didn't even, I was like, you've done it for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You've really given an effort. I'm proud of you for how good you've gotten, but you said you don't want to do it anymore. No hard feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're moving on to something else, right?
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
because they had that availability. So that it's just the power of asking is something I've learned so much. And to your, I mean, when I was your age too, I get it. Like nervous as all hell. Like I'm telling you, 20 years, you're senior. How's it say? 42
Yeah.
years old. I'm telling you, dude, like I'd just be firing off emails to everyone because you
Yeah.
have a track record. You're not on episode one. What do you like episode 100 something?
110. Yeah.
Dude, most people don't get past number 3, dude. I'd be
Yeah.
firing off emails to everyone. Like anyone you're like, oh, that'd be cool. Like that's what I do now. Oh, that person would be cool to have on. I'm going to email them, see if they want to come to the podcast. Some people say
Hmm.
yes. Some people say no. Some people don't get back to me,
Yeah.
you know?
I have a lot of excuses teed up for this. But the fact that you're telling me this makes me realize it's something I need to hear. So, um, you're right. And it's not as huge of a fear thing as it is just a prioritization thing. So I'm living this dichotomy of struggle because I say that the podcast is a huge priority and it is,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't spend the time to do the outreach that would make it the 1% effective, right? I distract myself. Like I'm like very busy with like fulfillment right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and things like, and I don't prioritize a block of time and say, okay, this is for email outreach. I even have a Notion database of like shows that guests, like my dream guest that when I first started the show. Um, and I don't think we talked about this, I think when you came on mine, was like the lag of the like identity gap between you are currently, like you say you're 110 episodes in, and to me I'm just that kid who bought like the $30 Amazon mic and was recording back and forth on the drive from the agency.
Right.
um and that was episode 1. So to me it's like I need to get a little bit more self-aware and overcome my internal head trash a little bit probably.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Because the one thing that you're forgetting is all of those 100 that you've had on, right? You reach out to them in some capacity. Some of those
Mm-hmm.
people you asked, you're putting other people in like this like the stratosphere
Pedestal.
of like,
Yeah.
like they're untouchable and you okay, let them tell you no.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear them tell you no. Or hey, not this year, follow up next year. Okay, I'm going to follow up
Mm-hmm.
next year. I think I told you this when we were talking before. Like I've
Yeah.
gotten really good at that. It's like, yeah, Brian not available this year, or they're writing a book. Come back next year. Great. When should I reach out? Great. I'll put a reminder and I'll reach out because
Mm-hmm.
most people don't. Now I've learned that from the sales background, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little bit. Your timing is not their timing. Now that's one big thing to understand. But that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean you shouldn't reach out at least initially and see.
Yeah. I think the biggest difference between where I am and because a lot of my sales has come from relationships, like and I never make, I'm very cognizant of making asks with people that I'm not like comfortable with. And like that meets on a sliding scale of everything. Um, but I have learned just talking to people that are, again, that I put on a pedestal, that how much they value time. And I just sometimes I have like this honest conversation with myself, and part of it's probably a little bit of insecurity on my own end, but like, what is the ROI of this, 30, 60, 40, hour and a half spent with me when they could be, spending time with their family? I mean, no, it's not that direct in terms of what else they could be doing. Um, but it's like, I'm so like ROI, like driven, like that mindset. And I get really, I get in my own head a lot when I think about like what that could look like for other people. If that makes sense, because I feel like their hourly rate or something like that is far higher than anything that I could give them wisdom wise if they were to book a slot on the podcast. Does that make sense? I know it sounds kind of stupid, but
It makes sense, but it's a crock of BS. Let them tell you
yeah,
that though. Let them tell you that by
okay,
saying that. We were talking earlier about like Jason Fried and DHH and those guys coming on. Like, and you said, oh, they seemed like they had a really good time, and they did. And I got compliments and stuff, and having different folks like that. Well, I wouldn't have had that opportunity, or they wouldn't have had that opportunity if I don't reach out. And I've changed my view because dude, I'm the same way as you. Like, it's like, what are they going to think? Or are they going to shoot me down? Or it's not going to be a good use of time. But at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I put a quality show together. This is a professional show. I've been doing
mm-hmm.
it for 7.5 years. I have a lot of experience with it. We're going to have
Yeah,
a good, and by the way, on the back end of it, they're going to have clips that they could take with them. They can give to their media team if they want to cut it up and post it. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
create art, maybe blog articles for them. So they're getting a tremendous amount of content out of it by just having an hour dialogue back and forth with them, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So
Yeah,
that's how
that's a good
I
point.
look at it, is like it's a give take, you know? It's
Yeah.
definitely a win-win for both parties.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a
That's how
great
I
point.
hope you think after we finish this.
Yeah. I'm getting there. You're working on me. I'm getting there.
All right. All right, we're into this. We might even put this on the podcast. I'll get your.
Yeah, I thought, what was all this word about like a different format? Is like, was that just bullshit, or am I
No, I
like
get this is a
the
new.
first
Well,
step?
typically, no, I typically start like right now with like the new format. Like
Okay.
we just happen to go in. I was like asking you about the Seth Godin thing. So,
Dude, this is like
um,
when two podcasters, I had this happen last week, but when two podcasters start talking, it's just all, all
I know.
format goes out the window. Um, yeah, it's
Well,
normal.
why don't you share? So I do have the new format. You want to go through the new format?
Well, that was my aspiration. I mean, it's kind of your show, so I'll let you take me through it, I guess.
All right. Why don't you share? So, what I'd like you to share, start off with, is um, what are you? You're making me like
Sorry, go.
trying to be too buttoned up. What are you focused on, right? Like, what are you excited about right now? Late summer 2025 project you're working on, and maybe even further than that, because again, the goal of people listening into this to get some value is like, who is that person? Who is that audience member that is benefiting from that?
Mhm. What so what I'm focused on right now a lot is mostly like from the business standpoint, systems. So I talked about this yesterday with a mentor of mine where I'm graduating out of the phase in business where you start to view yourself as a business owner and not like scrappy freelancer. And that like totally affects the energy that you bring to what is work every day, right?
Mhm.
So not seeing myself as the business MMG in itself, but like, okay, how can I deliver the product even if it's not, me, or if it's not what my process used to look like? And it's been hard because changing anything is, especially what I do is a lot creative and feel based. Um, it's been difficult, but that tells me that it's probably worth doing. But that's not what has me the most excited. I like I've become a little bit unbalanced kind of in terms of separating those two. So company versus my life.
Mhm.
And I think in the beginning of starting anything, like for the last 2 years, you kind of, and this has been brought to light with me with a lot of the more startup founders that I've been talking to who are, just don't have they don't have reasonable expectations as to what is required. A lot of times it takes a little bit of imbalance. Just the coming out of that is hard. So like having the conversations like, okay, I don't have to be working this much. I don't have to be optimizing to this 1%. Like finding kind of that line of enough time and good enough. I am very fortunate and unfortunate in the sense that I have no, I call them positive constraints. So I've been able to be very selfish with my time.
Mhm.
Um, like I don't have a lot of financial burdens. I did in the beginning, but I'm graduated on the other side of that now. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife and family. I don't have any debt. Um, and not that those things are positive constraints, not the financial ones, but like I said, it's when you don't have the things kind of like bumping your, like the positive borders that are steering you towards what normal is, you start to, cater outside of that. And, it's not normal a lot of times to, spend 90 hours a week on your business. Um, so yeah, kind of that phase right now. The thing that excites me about that is being able to become a little bit more. I don't love the word balanced, just more holistic in terms of, and maybe picking up stuff like golf again, which I haven't played in almost a year and a half. Um, and that's definitely something that we could rip on.
Oh yeah,
But
we've talked the whole damn time about golf.
I know, dude. I can't believe you. I can't believe you went to Methodist, dude. It's actually wild.
I know it is. Yeah, it is pretty wild. Like Just anytime I come across people that went to the same college, because it's such a small little
I
school, you
know.
know.
Did you go there
Yeah.
for golf, or you just go there for?
Yeah.
Well, what else would you go there for?
I mean, you could,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, I guess people go there for a lot of stuff now. They have like their, I mean, they have their, I think their PhD program now, but you can go there for, I
Yeah.
think, health and stuff and some other, business, obviously. But not, you're not coming from upstate New York to do that,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Did they give you? I wanted to ask you. That's probably better to ask off camera. But did you go? Did they give you the presentation? I don't know how long they've been doing this, but I've heard it from like three post grads that have came like after me and during mine. But did they give you like the presentation where they're like give you the course walk? You might have been there before they had the on site course, so this might be a moot point. But they give you like
No, the
this
course
really.
was there. I'm not
It
that
was.
old. The yeah, I think the course was
I
built
wasn't
in
trying to
like,
apply that.
no, I know that. I'm
I know.
messing. I think the course was built in like the mid '90s, maybe early '90s or mid '90s or something like that. So
Okay.
it was actually in decent shape. Not nearly as good as it now, but it was in
Hmm.
decent shape. It was
Yeah.
full 18 holes. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay. So did they give you like the whole? And for the listeners, people that don't know, Methodist University has a golf course on their campus, which is like super rare. It's how they attract a lot of weird people like me and Brian. But they have like this whole curated tour of like, okay, this is the practice facility, this is the green, this is the bridge that you walk across, and then they'll take you up top to the building, and then they'll open the window, and they're like giving you like the sales pitch, and Conley walks in, and so I like had two people say that exact process to me, like right after I had it happen. I'm like, man, talk about sales process. They have one dialed
Yeah.
in for sure. I didn't even know I was getting the treatment.
I I think they do have that. I don't I don't think I ever went through that because my brother. So I'm going to say that for like 30 seconds because we can talk off camera. Basically, my brother went there as well as a couple kids from
Okay.
my high school that were even older than him. So I kind of already knew,
Mm.
like, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do.
You
So
were
I was like,
you're a warm lead. That's what they call you.
what's that?
You were
A
a warm
warm lead? Oh
lead.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was
They let
I was
their
a
guard
hot
down.
lead because I basically just committed and I was like, they let me in. I barely have to have a good SAT score and whatever. Like, okay, I'll go. So yeah, it worked out. But yeah, I didn't get any. I didn't even know. I don't even know if I went down like before I got. I don't even think I saw the college before I got accepted. I went down to visit my brother spring break, his first year, so his freshman year. He's a year older,
Hmm.
but I got accepted like 2 months prior to that. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's a fun time. If you ever come to North Carolina, we'll go back and play it.
Oh yeah, I'll be back
So
someday.
all right. I want to ask you about this. I don't want to miss the point because you mentioned balance a couple times. How do you define balance?
I think it looks different for like depends. Like the best answer to everything, I guess. I like the word harmony better, and I made a post about this before. But like the word harmony, example, you listen to someone like Hormozy, I get the genuine sense that he actually enjoys his very unbalanced lifestyle. Um, but there comes to a point you have to acknowledge, like, am I doing, is this, what the actions in my day consist of? Is that A, normal, like, or B, is that, am I viewing it as a means to an end, like something that's temporary? Um, I think when you reach a point to where you are like, at the end of the day, because people have different tolerances for different amounts of discomfort. Some people aren't cut out to be, entrepreneurs, or they don't want to push themselves as hard, which is totally fine. It's just acknowledging that and living in according to that. I think that's acknowledging what you want to have happen and being okay with the lifestyle and the actions that it takes to make that happen. I think when you're consistent on both sides, like you acknowledge the inputs and you acknowledge the life and you're enjoying it, you're getting fulfillment out of it. I think that would be like balance. And a lot of people like over and under index on both sides. So for me, I was saying, okay, like I really, want to do this thing. And I wasn't, it's like we talked about with the podcasting, I wasn't doing the actions that were going to make it happen. So
Mhm.
that like in unauthentic action fulfillment of yourself and your goals is what leads to a lot of internal struggles,
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and it's also like checking yourself to say, because I think a lot of people like to be like, oh yeah, I work 14-hour days and I'm grinding 100 hours, but it's like,
Mm,
let me look at your day. Could you do that
right.
14 hours in 7? Like, are you
Yes.
just dicking around, right, and doing nothing and wasting time where you can actually be more efficient, be smarter with it, and maybe you create new hobbies for yourself, or you do take more, you go take a walk for 30 minutes because it's actually better for your mental health. Like, I think there's
Yeah.
ways that sometimes, and again, I think we all get into this period of like, you feel like you're doing so much, but it's like, is that even relevant? All that stuff,
Yeah.
quote unquote,
That's why
whatever stuff is.
I think it's, and I 100% agree with that. Like, even I said I was working that much. It's 100% a mental problem because you reach this point where you're like, you've set the bar and you have like this, like, what's the word? Like masochistic, not, that's maybe a bit extreme, but you're like,
Mhm.
this is the bar I set. This is what it takes to maintain now. It's just not true. Like
Yeah.
you get to the point where you're rewarding yourself with the fact that it feels hard versus getting results. Um, and then it starts to like steer your own instincts. This is going to sound really weird, but you're a lot of times the signal of like discomfort is something that you take as this is something I should be doing. And when it gets uncomfortable to push yourself and work really hard, you're like, this is hard, i.e., the input must be worth it. And you just get into this head trash, this self fulfilling loop. And you're like,
Mm,
this is the bar now. You keep doing it. And it's a very perpetual cycle.
mm,
That's why I definitely think it's a mental problem rather than an actual rational, like I could, yeah, you're not cognizantly working nearly as much as you think you are. You're just subjecting yourself to the prison of, what you think is necessary to sustain what you've built. A lot of it's around fear too.
yeah.
Um, I
Or
think
not
we're
defining
very
what
risk
enough
averse.
is, or these
Yeah,
type of things, right? It's like, I think you put it really well though. It's like, yeah, this is uncomfortable, I got to keep going, but like, when do you stop? At some point you have to hit the stop button, pause button,
yeah,
give yourself a break. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, Andy, this is the new tradition on the show.
Oh, dude, hour in, we're just
Did I
starting,
tell you
man.
about this, what we're doing? This is
Oh
a
my
rapid
gosh,
fire.
you actually you're drawing? I didn't know there was it. Okay,
Oh, this is rapid fire, dude. Rapid fire. But
okay,
here's the thing. Remember, I told you about this. I don't know how much I explained. Is I want to bring more spontaneity and fun into the show because I
mm,
found the show's been on such a trajectory where literally at the beginning, I remember Matt Hines, my first interview I ever did. I had like a page like this, and it had like 20 questions, like literally out, and I felt like it was
yeah,
just like, again, a 60 minutes interview, right? I think we all probably do that at some point. And then I got to where it's a conversational. But what I start to realize was this journey I'm on. I'm like, yeah, it's cool to know like Andy's whole story and jump around and stuff. That's great. But I felt the audience wasn't
yeah,
getting the value on depth. So I really wanted to corner back into, okay, let's talk about like just get started stuff, things around that, advice you can share, story, just like we're talking now. And then that's why I asked, guests of like, give me one topic to really focus on. So after we do the rapid fire, we can really focus on that one topic because I said that's like when people listen in, when I listen to podcasts, I want to get some depth. I don't want surface level. We talk about something for a second, then we're jumping. And that's what I felt was
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Um, so
I
that's
feel
why
that
I
a
said
lot too. Yeah,
yeah. So I'm like, I've prepared, quote unquote, I've like, there's about 50 questions in this little jar here, but it's all spontaneity. I don't know what it's going to be.
hmm.
And what's cool about it is it's a jump off point. They're rapid fire, but we'll spend a few minutes on each topic depending on, your answers. So,
God,
all right,
yeah,
here we go.
few minutes. Yeah, okay,
Yeah, we'll see. We got time. We haven't put a
dude.
cap on this yet. Here we go. Ooh. All right. You have a difficult business decision and only one phone a friend. Who are you making a call to?
Business decision.
You have a difficult business decision and only one phone a friend. Who are you making a call to?
Well, that rules out the parents if it's a business decision.
It could,
Um,
whatever. Yeah, whoever.
um, I actually know Chris LaFay is my agency founder mentor. Chris is the owner of Classic City Consulting, which is a web development agency in Georgia. I
Okay.
actually drove down to see him because he was one of those people that, I mean, I know everyone has someone like this in their life where they get like really close with really quickly. Um, and he's like literally that person for me. Like he's gone through a bunch of hard times and scaling his web design, one web development firm. So it's very, and he even says it often, is like, I see the mistakes I've made and I see you speeding down the highway. I see how much you're working. I see everything you're doing. And I'm just like this, like motorcycle. Um, and yeah, like he's, that's who I would call the business decision. And the reason I said not my parents is because, um, there's a big, and a lot of founders and entrepreneurs probably relate to people who they just haven't done the business thing before. They don't understand how all consuming it can be, and from an emotional standpoint. So they might say things like, just stop doing it, just stop working, to get off your laptop. Um, which is good advice because they have your best interests at heart. Um, but it's not always the best. Like I couldn't talk to them about, fixing a sales or marketing problem or anything like that.
Yeah. Is there
Yeah.
anything, Chris, like an aha moment you remember? Anything that was just kind of the unlock, like, holy shit, dude, how did I not think of that?
It's a good question. Probably just the like reinforcing the value of what you're worth. I think everyone has to hear it from someone else that, I mean, they need to charge more, or they're overscoping projects, they're doing too much. Um, when I first saw how much other people were charging, that I just had the kind of like, it's gonna sound narcissistic, but like I can do better than these people, and their life is a lot easier than me. They're also happier than me. So the takeaway from that was like, I am deserving of success in some capacity, and it's not the wrong thing to do to demand that and be a little bit more pushy.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think we all start at this like low level thinking, oh, like, I haven't been there for years, so I can't do it. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the value the clients are getting, right? If they're getting that outcome
Yeah.
goal, why shouldn't you charge that,
Hmm.
So, all right. What's the book you recommend the most?
God, they're
Or
so
do you
like,
recommend a book? Or do
yeah,
you
I
recommend
do.
books?
I read, Brian. God. Um, it depends on who it is. If it's business, then it's always If it's business, it's always Hormozy's books. 100 million dollar leads, $100 million offers, and soon the next one, which is having his little event about
Yeah.
tomorrow. So I was going to
You
talk to you
going to
about.
it? Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
we'll talk
know.
out. We can talk offline.
Yeah. Um, if it's a life book, um, okay. If it's I really like Jordan Peterson, who was
Okay.
12 Rules for Life. It's a really good book. The Courage to be Disliked. I can't remember the author's name. I've read a ton. Oh, Atomic Habits. Yeah, Atomic Habits. So James Clear lives really close to me, and he's interviewed people that he's featured people in his newsletter that I know, like that I've had on the podcast. So I'll read his 321 newsletter, and like I know her, or like I know
Mm,
him. Um, it's just wild. But that guy,
yeah.
that's the best book of all time, is Atomic Habits. Like there's no, the numbers justify it, the social proof justifies it, and the results justify it. Like that book did change my life back in high school. So that one would be the one. I don't know why it didn't come to mind first, but if it's more business and people are asking me how to get started with lead generation or marketing or anything like that, it's always Hormozy.
That's good. We started the conversation with reaching Seth Go. Now you reach out to James Clear.
Oh man, yeah,
1 degree
we'll
of
see.
separation.
Add him to the list.
And the list.
He's already on the
All
list,
right.
actually. What?
What's a failure you're secretly proud of? This is a really good topic. What's a failure you're secretly proud of?
Dude, I do not like these on the spot ones. A failure I am secretly.
Can I tell you? Can I pause you for a second though?
Yes,
I'm gonna give
yes,
you
you
30
can.
seconds so you can think.
Yeah.
Here's the reason I do this though. And I didn't do it for a while, but actually I want to because I think we're too buttoned up in our culture today. We're too
Yeah.
like, here's the questions. go prepare for a week, come up with this polished answer. And
Mm-hmm.
I want people to like not see you squirm. I want them to feel
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I'm thinking. Like
Yeah.
I have all these interesting thoughts in my head. I have had these life experiences. Let me think for a second. You know, people bash on Elon Musk all day, every day. But one of the things I love about him, if you ever listen to him on interviews, sometimes he'll take 20 or 30 seconds to answer a
Yeah.
question. And he
Mm-hmm.
pauses and he's pondering, he's thinking. And instead of just like someone asks a question, I jump in and answer. Like, how did you process that? Like, how did you even think? Oh, because you
Yeah.
already had it in front of you. So, anyways, there's some spontaneity here. Again, it brings back the
Mm-hmm.
fun, it brings back the struggle a little bit. So
Yeah.
appreciate you doing that. So a
Yeah.
failure you're
Yeah.
secretly proud of.
It's good to know that you have a reason for doing it too. To the squirming. Um, a failure I'm proud of. So a really foundational probably failure for me was I don't know if I'm necessarily proud of it, but I'm proud of what it did. And I'm going to answer the question through that lens because
Okay.
I don't think anyone's proud of a failure if they actually view it as a failure in the moment. You're probably proud of what it taught you, or you're proud of the person you became afterwards.
Bingo.
So I'm going to take it to mean that. But I, so I really dove like I played golf like my whole childhood, and I wanted to make state and win state my senior year of high school, and I was training my ass off. Like this was everything. Like, and long story short, I got to the sectional tournament and I had one of the worst rounds of the season, and then the season ended the senior year. Um, and I look back on that, I'm just like, I thought the world was ending, and there was a foundational shift like in my life and my habits and everything I did during the day. Um, and that led me to like getting in really good shape. It led me to over indexing on it. Led me to like being a lot more unself conscious. It led me to starting a podcast a couple months later and doing all this stuff. So it that's one that I'm glad for the result of because it made me a different person. But in the moment I was like, dude, that was really rough. That was really rough. Really
I mean,
rough.
I can relate from the golf side. There's those,
Yeah.
and those tough rounds, especially if you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question though.
Oh, yeah, I think it's introspective because yeah, to your point, like I think there's a positivity to it. It's like if you think like failures happen, but what can I learn from it? What could I? That's why like yeah, what are you proud of? Like yeah, what came of it or what was the experience? Um, oh wow, here we go. Wow, this was again random, but this is based on your one of your things you're doing now. You can only use
Mhm.
one tool for your business. What's your go-to? You can only use one tool for your business.
So we design sites in Webflow. So that's one tool. If I'm like, okay, I'm bootstrapped for cash, but if it's for the business, the point of the business is to make money. So it would probably be on something marketing, and then I would. This goes into a whole different like. It's like the question is determining like my actions on the forefront. So if it's like just for the business model now, it would be the fulfillment tools like Webflow, Framer, the building tools, Figma, those the design tool. But if it's for a business, then I would probably do it on like LinkedIn Premium or um, LinkedIn, and then work onto a more solo consulting sort of model of what I already do, so that there's no fulfillment or software needs within it. So if I had to like tie my hands down, handcuff, I only can do one thing, then it would be that.
Mm.
Um, yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's an overly technical answer, but
That,
just say
but
like the
again,
web development
this
tool.
this is but again, I will harken back. I don't explain the podcast normally, but I will do this with you on here just because I think it's actually good. Maybe I don't explain a lot of like the back, like again, the thinking in my head of like I when I listen to podcasts, like to hear you go through that, you're talking through how you're thinking about it. Because to your point, I mean, it's a chicken and egg, really.
Hmm.
If you don't have biz dev, you don't have people talking to you, whether it's referrals, whether it's going to networking event, what doesn't matter what it is, you don't have a business. But yet,
Right.
if you're not using Webflow or these other tools, well, you don't have anything to sell. Like there's obviously a need for a lot of these. And really part of the question is to give insight like what you just did. Like, okay, Figma, what people haven't heard those before, maybe. Maybe some people don't know what those are. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let me hear a different tool or something that could be an unlock for my business. Oh, I never thought about that, right? So
Mm-hmm. Right.
that's like that's part of the question as well, is like, what tech are founders and entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
you answered it very
Either.
well. Don't beat yourself up,
Thank you.
man.
Thank
No.
you. No,
Yeah.
I needed that self
No.
reassurance.
Yeah. Keep working. Why did you decide? And I know obviously I have my background. My brother actually built a web development agency many years, golf web design actually. I was building websites for golf professionals
Hmm.
and golf courses. And that was actually my first job outside of green grass of teaching golf. I went and worked for him. Um, why Webflow versus WordPress or versus Squarespace or these others?
Yeah. So it's the first one you use, and it's like you get enamored with it. You become an expert in one of the first things you try. I got
Yeah.
introduced to it because it was a designer friendly. My background is in design. It was a very designer friendly web development tool. So you could basically take a Figma file, which for people who don't know a ton about web development process, you usually start from a UI UX tool like Figma, and then you go and manually code and design and develop the wireframes, which are what you see on a website, like printed out on a longer page. And you develop that off platform into a development tool like Webflow, like WordPress, like Wix, like the ones you said. Webflow is a really good balance because it's user friendly, designer friendly, and also gives you a lot of customization control. So things like Wix are a bit elementary in terms of they're too removed from the code base and control to where you can't control a lot of the visual features. It doesn't have a big marketing engine behind it um, that you can overly tailor towards specific needs. So there's a lot of things you can do with e-commerce and forms, like automations and follow up. You can't really make it tailored to the business, but with Webflow, it's kind of that good balance. And I'm lucky that's the first one I started using because a lot of people start on platforms that get an experts on them and then they have to change to adapt to more complex needs. Um, that's why it's really important when you identify a tool, and this goes for any industry, that you look at like the community behind it.
Mhm.
And is there forums? Are the people that are they innovating? Are they shipping updates, stuff like that? And they've done that really well, but they have increased their cost a lot, which you can do, I guess, after you've earned the trust part of it. But that's kind of where I started, and
Yeah.
I've enjoy it too. Like that's part of the thing too, is you enjoy what you're spending your time in. It has a nice UI. I'm really big on UI. So if it's I'm enjoying spending my time in there, if I'm doing it a majority of the day,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's
Well,
kind of
if you're
how.
in, and I don't know Webflow too much. I've like logged in one or two times, and I was thinking, just playing around with it in the past year or two. But with WordPress, I'm very well known because I've been literally using WordPress for 14 years, right?
Hmm.
But for people that have never used it, if like you built a website in WordPress to them and gave it to them and said, "Okay, here now you can make your own updates and everything," like some people they would just blow their damn mind, right? Because
Hmm.
there's a lot in there. So I'm assuming Webflow is a lot easier from a CMS standpoint. Then is that right on
Yeah,
the end user?
it depends. It takes a lot of development knowledge. They market themselves like a no code builder. Like
Yeah.
anyone can use it, and it takes a lot. It takes some development knowledge. Like if you don't know the web structure, like the box model. So think like div blocks, classes, and how you make responsive design. You're gonna struggle, and that's why when I was learning it, I was like, man, like I have to learn how the class systems work. I have to learn responsive design. I have to learn a little bit of code to know how to make it work. But the CMS is a good part of it. It's a relatively straightforward CMS, but it has to be set up right. So the way a CMS works, it allows a lot of personalization, which also allows for a lot of um, errors. So the more
Mhm.
it's like that fine line. Like the more personalization you can have, the more you can set it up wrong from the beginning. So like you start to implement like different cross references and stuff like that. If you don't set it up and have it mapped out from the beginning, like, okay, this is a podcast. So you fill out your podcast with the default fields and everything. If you don't do that right and you start to add and tool on over time, you really start to run into problems in terms of, especially with the website, like links go down. It's a really unprofessional look when you have bad links on your site and
Yeah.
design inconsistency. So like design drift, pages start to look different the further and further you get from like the root when you first start.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah. All right, how many? Wow, see. I told you we go some depth in these. All right. Oh, who is someone you admire or have learned from that you've never personally met?
Dude, that list is so big.
But that's why you pick one person who's on the
Oh
list. Who
my
is someone
god,
you admire or learn
dude.
from that you've never personally met? Just call out one of them. Give them one shout. I'll let you have two if you want.
I'll stick to one. I like to suffer. Um, well, at the top of mind ones are Jay Klaus and James Clear. They are top of mind because we talked about them already, but they you build this like parasocial relationship with people when you listen to them for a long time or you consume a lot of their content. That happens a lot online now. Jay's been that for me because he was there when I like literally first started. Um, I got to meet him recently too, which is pretty cool. But I've listened to Atomic Habits so many times. I've read that book. Um, a lot of clients too. I haven't actually met in person, but I look up to a lot of them too. Some of them are in like across the country in Utah, California, and stuff. So if I had to put a name to it, it would be James Clear or Jay Klaus of Creator Science. I highly recommend people look them up. Highly recommend.
Why Jay? And I've followed Jay for several years as well. Why Jay? Like what about him kind of attracts you to listen to his stuff or watch his videos or read
Yeah,
his tweets?
and that makes sense to ask that because it's not like totally related to what I do, right? It's
Mhm.
like he's more targeting like creators and his audience, but he does a really good job of differentiating and also just the trust. Like I really enjoyed his podcast because I've just listened to like so many hours of it. I've listened to like almost every single episode, and he has several hundred. I listened to several years too. So when you start to build that parasocial relationship, it has a different relationship. Like I've never seen in my entire like customer journey of his like a mess up, and and I know like whenever he does something, it is very calculated and very thorough, and he's just he has that role of trusted advisor for me.
Yeah.
He does a good job of differentiating what he does, the difference between being a marketer and being a creator. Like he kind of owns that term. And I think the word creator is a lot less of a professional / abrasive term than what can be labeled as marketing. And that's why I try and identify as that, um, which is counterintuitive because it's the name of my show. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't know. Jay's a man.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna be excited when you have him on your podcast and get to listen to that
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. It's going to be an I told you so moment.
How do you personally define enough when it comes to success?
I think, I said it's a really good question. I think it comes from hearing it from someone else to kind of know that we're kind of a fish in water when it comes to your own goals and business and life. And I heard, I don't know who, I think it was Naval Ravikant. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Yeah.
he's an Indian. Okay. He's an angel
Yeah, I
investor.
know,
He's
I know
on,
more very well. I recommend
yeah.
anyone like the Almanac of Naval
No, yeah. That's one of
Ravikant.
my
It's a
favorite
really
books
good
too.
book. Yeah, it's a great book.
I
Yeah.
didn't recommend it when you asked me books, but,
Well, it might have
um,
been number 4 on the list. That's okay. I only asked for
well,
one.
yeah, it's also like this on the spot nature of what you're putting me through here. Anyway, that was a joke.
Throwing you through the gauntlet. It's like American Gladiators. It's like
Yeah,
you're too
that's too
young for
funny.
that show, but it was popular in the 90s. It was yeah.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the gap. Well, what was the quote from that? It's the unhappiness or desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. I think that's what it was.
Mm,
So you realize like every time you have like a want or a need, you're subjecting yourself to or a desire to get to enough, right? You're kind of like saying, okay, I acknowledge that I'm not going to reach this state of internal peace until I get there. Something Hormozy talks about too is like finding ways to enjoy the meantime, which like it's a totally almost contrarian thing. It's not contrarian because it's the same idea, but you have to acknowledge like the difference. Change requires some kind of a sacrifice.
Mhm.
Um, so if you kind of just like attach yourself to enjoying the journey and not being so focused on what you think success is, and I'm really not trying to sound like I know what's going on or what my 5 or 10 year plan is. Um, but I think enough is just kind of like being happy and like getting to the end of the day and thinking like, wow, that was a really good day.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to stack more of those one at a time as I can. And as someone that's really risk averse and anxious towards the future, that that's a tough circle to square sometimes. But I'm getting there one day at a time.
Well, I think it's important to define enough, but one of the things that I've learned is defining success makes it a lot easier. Because I think that's the challenge I've learned because I never defined success. And it's like, well, you're always chasing something. It's the dog chasing the tail or whatever, however how the phrasing is, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what's success? Because success for you and me are two totally different things.
Mm-hmm.
But what is success in the world, right? If we put a list together, what is everyone, when you hear success, it's wealth, it's fame, it's maybe fancy toys, et cetera, right? Lavish lifestyles and cars and and trips and all that. Like that, when you hear success, right? Lifestyles of the rich and famous, like I grew up with that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. That's what everyone, the general terminology of success is that.
Right.
But if you actually ask people to be really honest with themselves, the answers are completely different, right? Because success for you right now is going to be different than 5 or 10 years. And
Right.
success for me today is way different than it was 10 years. But most people don't define that. And I just think that's a huge opportunity because then what is enough? Well, when I've reached that, oh, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel successful today. Well, then I'm enough. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
keep grinding like we were talking about earlier. Like I don't have to keep grinding at the keyboard to like for some random thing that I can't even touch. I have everything I need. I'm very happy. I think.
Right. Content.
Anyways, I won't. I think that's something really to lean into is what is success for you is a great question for almost anyone to put an answer to. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it changed the way that you set up your day and in your life.
Yeah. It's a really good point. It's true.
I
It's
appreciate
true.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Was that our
All right.
last squirmy question, or is
That's our
that
last
all
squirmy.
five?
That's our last squirmy question.
Okay.
Let's riff for a little bit, and we could do this in a couple ways because I wanted to get your thoughts for a little bit on. I mean, this is obviously stuff you do around design and like the importance of thinking about design in your business and marketing, right? And how that relates to performance and stuff with your business. What so it's challenging because we don't have the visuals unless you wanted to share a screen or you can beat up my website or something. And maybe we do this another time too. But like, how do you get someone to thinking design? Because they're like, "Hey, Andy, great. I got to improve my business." Okay, well, you need a better design. You need better performance with your materials. What does that
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, how does someone contextualize that into some action item to do?
Yeah, a lot of it. So there's a lot of mistakes people make, and a lot of times too, when people ask me that, because I do get asked that a lot, it's like, okay, we can change the colors, we can make something look good, we can make a button look prettier, we can add a hover state to our buttons and make them like ooh attractive. That's not going to drive more pipeline or make our improve our bottom line, and that in isolation is very true. But there's a lot of like small mistakes that we see a lot of people and founders make. One of them is just, and to keep it like really simple, is you have to have the goal in mind. Like you have to know what the end result of what people are going to your website for. So it all starts with the same, like me, you, Stacy, Jay, like all these people. It starts with knowing your customer, and what the mistake a lot of people make, Brian, is that they design a site that looks good to them and not that person. You really have to like get out of the fish and water. Like I said, that is your own business.
Mhm.
And when you are or you're working with an agency, if you don't know who's coming to your website, you don't know who your ideal customer is, then you're going to design one that looks good to you and not them. And also just like the basic, there's two more things, but like the basic sort of lack of these things called like UI UX principles. So this is like things like buttons, contrast, things that can actually have a difference in terms of how your site ranks. That design plays a role in that, and it's a lot of what we had to learn as designers. Like, okay, there's actually performant features to this, um, and just things like that that a lot of people don't know, like sizes and contrast ratios. Those are a lot of like the technical end that goes into it. But a big part of it too is more the philosophical part, is not knowing where it sits kind of, and this is right up your alley, is not knowing where a website fits like in their sales process, right? So for example, if a lot of times a website is a lot closer to the sale than, depending on what your business is. And if you don't know your customer, you don't know who your business is, you can't design and lay out information architecture in the right way. So, for example, like a SaaS company, they can be a little bit more direct in their layout and the structure of their site because they are very close to the sale. There's not, a lot of times, there's not going to be a personal relationship involved in like a free trial or a monthly subscription that's lower ticket. You can afford to be a little bit more direct with, okay, this is the next step is a purchase. So knowing like where it sits versus like a consultant, for example, or someone like you or I or a solo service provider, you're not really selling the end result on the website. It's very early in the customer journey. You're really just kind of selling the next step. So you should be leading people towards a newsletter, a resource, a free offering that then moves them down to position them closer to your offer. And the way you architect your site can be a big determination in how that happens. So the one, that's the 90%. The 10% is like, okay, how do I create the impression that when someone goes to my site, like this is a no-brainer. Like all these things are speaking to me. The combination of the UI, UX, the design principles, like I really love the way this looks. I feel like I've been here before. And then that stuff is kind of like the gas on the fire that makes the foundational principles, like the information architecture, having the right offer in place for the right person, being clear and not peacocking, which is the term I like to use sometimes, where people inaccurately portray themselves on their website because deep down they're a little bit insecure, and maybe a little bit insecure. Maybe they just don't know like this is what you should do on a website. So a lot of times people will do things like not list pricing or not present enough information, and that ambiguity can be inflated with distrust sometimes.
Yeah.
So when you don't like really over-index on things like social proof, and a lot of this is like so one-to-one with like sales too. So if you don't over-index on like earning trust through things like social proof, past clients that are saying things that you did for them, having listed credible sources. So I've accomplished the impression that you want to create is I have accomplished this result for a person that is like you, and portraying that pretty much front and center, because that's people that speak highly of you through testimonials are going to be a lot more powerful than you talking about yourself. Um, so things like that are probably the biggest mistakes, I think. But like I said, design is like what really sets people apart. Like to me, like that's one of my core values is, even as the way the industry goes with websites themselves becoming commodity, things like the design is what makes it a home run offer. It makes it like the 1%. And a lot of times that's sometimes what people need. And a lot of times it's not, Brian. Like there's a lot of times where, especially startups and smaller businesses, they should definitely design their own website for themselves, because where their marketing dollars are best spent usually is not in the design part. It's about determining their offer, knowing how to portray that, and then doing it themselves so they can know like, okay, what's actually converting. But a lot of people don't actually do is they don't ask people for feedback. They get stuck in there, and I get it too. Is like recently I went through like doing my own site, and Stacy and I talked about this, is how much head trash you do when you try and do your own service for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and asking for feedback, and you're like, holy shit, like I should be good at this. Like I do this for other people. Um, Asking for feedback, and you think you can say like at the end of the day, like I have super thick skin. Something I've always said. I'm just like, tell me what sucks, we'll make it work. But when it's your own thing, I sent 20 Loom videos asking for feedback on my site, and I had no idea how personal I would take that. I think a lot of people feel that too when they ask for anything feedback
Yeah.
wise, that can be personalized and like really representative of their business. Um, I have a couple more like misconceptions or mistakes I could list through, but those are the ones that come to mind. I probably shouldn't have listed that many, but
No,
those are a few.
that's exactly because we can noodle down. Ooh, give me the other misconception. Give me my why. Let's flood the list, and then we'll pull it back.
Yeah, another one is like just like the social awareness piece of it. So you're not understanding why what role the website plays in your business. So different businesses have need a website. Some people don't. Some people need, so like for example, if you sell to small businesses, you don't want to have like a super complex, like interactive, fancy site. This kind of goes into mind with designing a site that looks for you, good to you, and not your buyers.
Hmm.
But what we see a lot of people do is like, wow, like this is a gorgeous site. It's dark mode. It has all these fancy load animations. Um, Whereas if you're serving small businesses, usually never want to have something that is super interactive, complex. They want something like light mode colors. They want warm feel. They want big, friendly buttons to where they can more easily see, like, okay, we're getting to trust a little bit faster, because a lot of times small businesses buy on trust. Whereas, say, if you're an agency or if you're someone who's selling like a very high ticket service, you want to have like a very fancy, highly interactive. You want to look, you want to create the impression to like the marketer or the B2B SaaS person that you invested in your website. So it's more of a status play on that end. Um, and that combined with just not the bad information presentation. And Brian, like I know you know this, especially with sales, like people can smell BS from a mile away.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
especially on your website, if that's how far away they are. So when you don't accelerate that trust, you don't over index on communication. Like I said, all this stuff is a sliding scale too. So if you are, if you're worried about having, some people when they design a website for the first time, they're just like, okay, this is like a PDF. I need to list everything I've ever done for everyone. Um, and there's a balance there because you want to make it, especially with websites now, the attention spans are just so small. And like a little inside baseball is that 60% of people don't even make it past the fold of your homepage. So like optimizing everything above that, because if you can get a 50% retention rate, which is we use a software called Microsoft Clarity, you can actually see like how people are interacting with your site. It's like super stalker, um, a little bit.
Hmm.
That's kind of why I like watching heat map recordings. But you can literally see like where people are bouncing off on your website. You can see where they're clicking, and you get a little hover over it. You get like heat maps. You can tell what site parts of the design and the site they're interacting with more with. And that's how we can, take changes. And that brings up another thing. Like a lot of people don't know who's going to their site in the first place. It's like a black box. They don't have any awareness around. They can't they can't make it better because they don't know what's going into it, right? Um, so like just the basic
How
stuff of
are let me pause you there
okay.
for a second, just to make because I want to make sure I don't jump past too much.
Uh-huh.
Microsoft Clarity. Can anyone put that on their site?
Yes, it is a free script. So if you go to I think it's clarity.microsoft.com,
Okay.
um, there's a bit of a manual setup process, but depending on what builder you use, you can go into the footer code and drop that in, and it gives you a really good dashboard of where that can happen. It's one of those things where data is important, so it takes a couple weeks of consistent traffic. You can also see like where viewers are viewing your site from, how much like dwell time on different pages, and it gives you heat map data, and it's 100% free. So it's like a Hotjar alternative. I honestly like it better because it's open source and it's a lot more controllable just from like an action based
Okay.
standpoint. But information like that, that's why it's so important. A lot of people don't like using, and I don't love it either, but you have to learn how to use it, is Google Analytics. That's kind of like the default tool
Yeah.
that when you build a website for the first time, it's like, okay, this is how you use it. And it's super confusing. I don't know if like any of the listeners have ever been in there, but it's overwhelming. Like you have way too much information being thrown at you. So part of it is knowing what information is important and stuff that you can act on. So like where people are coming from, what are your most traffic pages, um, what buttons are they clicking, so what's actually converting, and then designing around orienting for those actions. So you might change a call to action based on what the offer is and what people are actually responding to. What pieces of content on your site are people actually reading and engaging with the most? And then that's where you can position a better call to action that feels more warm, more personalized. Also, like site architecture. So if there's certain pages that aren't on your site that aren't even being looked at or viewed, they're probably not necessary. Something that you see a ton too, Brian, is like people will have a unique page. It's just a top of mind example. They'll have a really like a unique page just for testimonials, and nobody goes to that unless you're a very warm buyer. Like you're like, okay, I'm this close to the purchase. I need to see
Right.
exactly what people are saying. Another small tidbit too is when it comes to testimonial sections, people people dump way too much text and copy in there. What you want to do when it comes to testimonials is position them where people are seeing them the most because they're the most powerful trust converter,
Right.
but also making them brief and minimal, like the most powerful, like single pull quote. Some people will post like entire walls of what this is the entire thing that this person said, this company thing, this result that they got. You have to pretend as if people, because it's true, people only have like 60 seconds. And when you're positioning, especially above the homepage, how can you like resource everything that person needs with a limited context of window? And that's like really the challenge, because trust in order to make a purchase is earned through time. It's earned through like podcasting. You build a really deep relationship. If you have a really good website, like my mindset is like, how can you accelerate that given that people have such short attention spans and we only have a limited time to accurately and truthfully represent that and try and speed that sales cycle to the next step, which isn't always a purchase. So the
Yeah.
awareness around where it sits and what role it plays in your business is definitely the place to start. And the design is the 1%, cherry on top. How do we, optimize for that?
When clients come to you, what what are they typically missing? And it could be information, it could be content, it could be, maybe it's graphics or something. Like, what's the thing you're always like asking for that
Assets play
they're
really,
not prepared for?
yeah, assets play a really big role in design. Um, the forefront ahead of time part is like again, the information architecture. So a lot of times they want to over or undersell. Some people, and mostly people, are very underly. They feel like they're being too aggressive with their calls to action. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
however, I'm always saying like you always need to be 10 to 50. It's like if you go on camera, you need to be a little bit more an animated version of yourself. If you're communicating through your website, you need to be a bit more pushy generally, because people will be a lot really passive with their calls to action. That's the entire purpose of the website, is getting them to the next step. And also just, and you do that through having the right information and being clear, not hiding anything. But like I said, a lot of people make that mistake of they're either on the sliding scale of they over index on like, here's everything, here's all of our information, here's all of our case studies, all of our testimonials, here's all the services we offer, and not keeping the viewer in mind in terms of who they are and what they actually want and need to see in order to get to the next step. So the homepage, like to get a bit more tactical, like the homepage is supposed to be like the Walmart greeter. I use this analogy a lot because it's easy for me to remember. And I'm not the best like on calls sometimes, but the homepage is like the greeter at Walmart, right? So supposed to put on a really nice smiling presentation. You walk in there, say like they're just ecstatic to meet you. It's a very good representation of what's inside. So if you think of a Walmart greeter, it's going to come up to you, it's going to shake your hand, and it's going to get you to where you need to go. Um, that's what the homepage is supposed to be. It's supposed to display who you are, not take your whole day by talking the entire time. It's supposed to identify what your needs are and make it really easy and intuitive for people to find the information that they need. You want to have your services, you want to have your offerings, you want to have copy that's very relevant, you want to have social proof. I made this very detailed framework where you want to have as much of that stuff above the fold, ideally. So some form of social proof, some form of call to action, and some point of very targeted pain point messaging that addresses that people can really look at and think, okay, that's the problem I have. I'm encouraged to then dissect the information. And that's when you can be a little bit more
Yeah.
longer form. And that's when you have more of those hidden, deeper pages like your case studies or your blog content or things like that. Um, but a
Well,
lot of people either go ahead.
no, I was just going to not sorry to interrupt there. What I was saying, I
There you
think
go.
another thing that's really important is you also want that content or that language because you want people that aren't a fit either,
Hmm.
right? You don't, because I
Right.
think if you're too general, like, oh, people sign up for your newsletter or they put a contact form and it's like, oh, this is not a fit. This is not my ideal client. Like
Right.
part of it's also on the other side of it of like, no, this is the type of people that I like. It's like, even with my newsletter, I learned this from Dickie Bush and Nick Cole was
Hmm.
around like, it's better to be clear than it is to be clever. And
Yeah.
like my newsletter that I started this year for sales, it was going to be like one simple sales skill or something. But I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of catchy or whatever. But then I realized like I don't want like the sales rep that's 5 years in. Like I'm going for like early stage founders.
Right.
Like that's who I'm. So that's why it's called sales skills for founders, right? Because it's
Hmm.
very clear. So it's like when
Hmm.
someone comes to the site and if they can see that, it's like, oh, this is not for me. So, anyways, I think that's a
Right.
hopefully a good point to interject there of like it's not always about just attracting more people. It's actually pushing away the ones that aren't the fit either.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where like the social awareness of like how you're getting traffic. It's like if you're appearing to the right places, that's what, and that's exactly right. Like traffic numbers aren't always representative of getting the right people there. So I think, okay, where am I showing up online, and where are my other marketing efforts, and what role is the website playing in terms of the overall marketing picture? A lot of people don't think about that. A lot of people view it as like a checkbox task of like, I got the LLC, I started a business, I have to get a website, I have to, have to fill that void. Um, and a lot of less people actually, especially lean consultants who get a lot of their business from word of mouth, they probably don't. The website isn't as a the website isn't as close to the sale, like I was saying in the beginning, or even as important in the beginning to have, because you
Mhm.
have word of mouth, you have things that are being borrowed from other people. But as you start to scale and you start to not be able to have such a personal connection with everyone you work with, then it becomes increasingly important to make sure that it's optimized and getting the right people in there too. Um, you make a really good point though about speaking, being clear, not clever. That's 100% accurate.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
so you mentioned not as aggressive or be more aggressive, excuse me.
Hmm.
Kind of above the fold is really important. Hit those spots, especially the social proof and be clear. Anything else? Again, someone's starting a business today and they're like, again, they don't like, I don't know, where do I go to get my website done? Or what do I do? Because I think everyone rolls that into one thing. I need a website. And again, I told you I have some scar tissue with this from golf web design and working with clients for several years. It was like I'd have people come to me and it's like, I need content for the website. And they'd send me like one Word document with like a 4 sentence about me
Hmm.
and like maybe their services. And I'm like, good grief.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is there anything else people should be thinking about as they're kind of looking to either start their website or, hey, I'm redesigning it? Anything else top
Hmm.
of mind?
Yeah. A lot of it is, like I said, feedback. So hearing, especially like the biggest thing I've done, like, because I've done over 100 like website breakdowns, is just reminding people, okay, what are your best clients actually saying about you? And then that's really like the keystone thing that informs the design, it informs structure, it informs like how you're positioning yourself, your language. Um, Reading back your testimonials, reading back um, just people that are in your network that you trust that are removed from your own business is a big part of that, because it's the big thing that steers you straight and being on the right direction. So if you look back at your testimonials, are there any commonalities between what people are saying, and also like how people found you? I actually believe that people should be commenting on your website. A lot of times people, especially when you're small, they don't, what the website isn't a discussion point. And then that may be a bit of my own fish in water because it's something that I'm looking at literally every second of every day.
Mhm.
So I'm more like sensitive to how it like because I have a higher knowledge of it. But a lot of times I'm a firm believer people should actually be commenting on it or giving you feedback on it, even unprompted. So saying, "Man, your website was really good," or like, "I really love you just I was reading through your website and it really spoke to me." Like that's the stuff that you really should hear. Um, and I don't think that's as common as it should be. But when it comes to positioning yourself and having things ready, a lot of it is okay, getting really clear on what I do, what is the value I'm actually offering people, and that starts by reading those testimonials and getting clear on who you are as a business, what value you're actually adding to other people.
Yeah, I mean, you make some really good points here. I mean, just because I'm kind of scribbling some notes, right? Thinking about the end result, like what's the outcome goal of the client or the person you want to reach,
Mm-hmm.
and tying that back into a lot of the not only the language but even the layout, which obviously, as you mentioned, goes to the UI and UX. And I really do think you're right. I mean, the feedback, not only getting testimonials, but asking people like, does this resonate? Does this text
Mm-hmm.
resonate? Does it make sense? Like how you're clicking through this thing? Like if you can get a couple people to give you that feedback, um, it's phenomenal. I think because at the end of the day, those are your clients, like the people that are paying you already. Why not ask them what they think of the website and
Mm-hmm.
how you can improve it?
Yeah, you made a really good point in the beginning. Is that those a lot of especially the right people? That's even one that I hadn't thought of. It's like you're really designing it for those 1 to 2 people who are your best clients because that's who you're trying to get more of, right? So you want to dive in. This is such the same with sales and copywriting, like all the stuff we do. Like there's so many overlaps in terms of starting in the right place and just having a good foundation to work from. So like for example, your past clients and the value that you actually add to them, that's should be your north star. And people get so and I see this in myself sometimes, like a lot of times actually, is that you get personally fulfilled by what you do, and that deviates you from the value that you add and what your clients are coming to you for. So referencing that as much as possible through testimonials. I'm not thinking like you have to appeal to everyone. You really just Michael. Have you ever read Mike McCallowicks? He has Profit First and another book
Yeah.
called The Pumpkin Plan. But
Yeah.
basically, his the pumpkin plan is not the best analogy, depending on what your business model is, and the analogy breaks down at some point. So hang with me. But his philosophy on like small business is that you have you design it like a pumpkin, so a pumpkin patch. So the core pumpkin is like your best ideal client, all the value that you added to them, and then the way pumpkins grow is that every action, every pumpkin is actually a stem from the main I forget the actual name for it, from the main, biggest, most ripe pumpkin, and everyone else in the patch stems on that, but it's like its core brain stem and life source. Um, so you want to pay attention to what that is, and then you can design all these other assets around it. So what is that one person saying? What is that core messaging? What is that one very defined outcome and deliverable? And then that should inform the rest of your copy and all honestly like your content and your scripting and the things that you're saying online. Everything should trace back to that one core outcome that you offer, and then just
Mm.
it's easier to stay consistent when you have one source of truth, as with anything.
Yeah. And then you can design the site around there.
Hmm.
That's as simple as that, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Um, Andy, this is dude. We could probably go for like another damn hour. We might have to do a part two here at some point.
Mhm.
But hopefully that gives people, I think, enough, at least to whet the appetite to reach out to you. Maybe check out some of your work. And you do now. You're doing audits of the websites, and you're kind of giving the kind of like my sales call roast. You kind of do you roast the websites, right? Don't you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to call them breakdowns and not audits because I have gotten feedback to where it's like, okay, audit, it's like classroom time. And really
Oh,
what it is, and I've done so many of them to this point where I realize how, and then they have to be prompted, right? So like you wouldn't go to, I mean, it's a little bit different with you because it's hidden information. Like the website's very easy to just say, okay, here are my thoughts.
mhm.
Um, but there's been times where I have gone in and gave like 10 to 15 minute like Loom recordings and sent them, and it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do next? Like it creates that overwhelm, and I've
Yeah.
definitely done that wrong before. So it's like 1 to 2 things that people can actually implement themselves to where it's like empowering to watch it rather than it being like, oh shit, like here's all this homework. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Like here's all this homework that I have to go in and do.
Right.
So yeah, it's also for a really good practice of my own. It's like seeing more websites, doing more things. I do it all day, every day, and honestly enjoy it. It's a good way to practice getting better on camera. Talk about what
Yeah.
you do. It's always a good thing.
No, I love it. And I think well, one, it's a good, I mean, it's a good opportunity for people to almost get like a taste of how they could work with you as well, which is
Right.
awesome. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, like whether they use you or not, it's like, no, here's some things to consider. I'm here. You
Yeah.
know what I do. I'm here. If you want to use me, if not, no hard feelings.
Hmm.
Go in another direction. You're not for
Yeah.
you're not for everyone, right? Some people
Exactly.
can't
Yeah.
afford your services, right? Going back to all the way back of like the value, right? That your buddy Chris was talking about.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think, like I said, that's why I do the sales call roast. Same thing. It's like, yeah, I'm giving you a breakdown of how you can improve. If you improve with me, cool. Let's jam. If not,
Hmm.
okay. But at least you have some stuff, and I know that's going to help you in the long run. And again, win-win there. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly. You want to hold this, even if you're not the right fit for people, like in their stage of business or their industry, you just want to hold this trusted advisor for XYZ, whatever you do, resource.
yeah,
And the closer you can get to the personalization of that, like
yeah,
trust is earned through the one to one, like very personalized, and also like on camera being well spoken is something I learned from you. Um,
I appreciate
is a
that.
great it's a great way to accelerate that. So you're spot
Yeah,
on.
and so, I mean, I think maybe a good wrap up is like, the folks, like I think I probably learned just, I don't even know if I can give them credit. I probably would give them credit, but like I don't think about it. But whether it's Gary Vaynerchuk or the Alex Hormozis of like,
Hmm.
giving that value as much as you can,
Yeah,
and in the end, like there's a good chance you'll get taken care of, right? If you're a good
yeah,
person, if you give, like Hormozzi's thing, I think when I guess it's been like 5 years since I uncovered him, I still remember I was like, oh, he's just giving free content because he
yeah,
wants, once your business gets to whatever, like 3 million, now you're probably going to use him. Phenomenal. I love it. That's a great model.
yeah.
Like give
Exactly.
away
There's
free, and
no.
he does it very genuinely. He seems very genuine, although he gets, anyone that's in that position gets, called out online, but it seems very genuine in everything he does. So like, who's not to, that's not how he is off the camera as well.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's like once he's so good at like level setting beforehand, like saying this is why I'm doing it. So there's none of that animosity. It's like, okay, what's this guy
Yeah.
trying to sell? And that
Yeah.
that's exactly like the website, like everything. You just sort of like being very upfront and saying, okay, this is what my goals are. My goal, and he says it like in the intro to his podcast. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, I own an acquisition company. My goal is to help you grow your business so that maybe you scale to 6 figures and eventually I can earn 7 or 8 figures and then I can acquire you. And it's like, okay, in my mind, I might not get there, but the closer I get to that, it's going to be helpful. So if that's your
Yeah.
goals, then you're meeting me at the exact right time. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good example.
Andy, where can people say hello to you? Where's obviously LinkedIn, but and shout out your website as well.
Yeah, the domain is MMG Design. That's in um, MMG, so Mary Grape Design. That's not what it stands for, but that's what the analogy is, or the
Okay.
acronym is. Um, and yeah, you can learn about us. You can see all the examples of some of the stuff we talked about in terms of website best practices and get some pretty visuals as well. And we do homepage breakdowns too, not audits.
Yeah. Breakdowns. And you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. You're sharing your whole founder journey on LinkedIn openly.
Yeah, trying to. That's yeah, and yeah. Um, I like spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. I meet some
Well,
good people over there.
that's
Not
where we
you, but
met.
good
And
other
yeah,
good people.
well, I mean, hey, you can't win them all. So awesome, dude. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on and sharing this journey.
Yeah, dude. I want to say like last thing. I I see nothing but like up and to the right for you. Everything you're doing. You are, like I said, I've only been on 4 podcasts, but you are hands down the best host I have ever. And you kind of create this parasocial relationship. Like I've listened to a lot of your shows in the past, and honestly, I was nervous come on today because of all the badasses that you've had on. I'm just like, man, that's not me at all. But dude, the way you show up online, I know it's hard to be like, it's hard to identify this for yourself. So I'm gonna say it so you can hear it. Is that
Appreciate
you
you.
show up like very genuinely online, like you accelerate trust very fast, um, and that's the skill. I think it comes a little bit from your background, but just not being afraid to be who you are um, is a big part of that. And even we all have like, even when we go to post something, when we put ourselves out there in any way, we always, even subconsciously, we're always like a little bit nervous sometimes. But
Mhm.
um, but dude, like ever since we've been in touch, I've seen nothing but positive things. All of our mutuals say nothing but positive things. And with the sales thing, whatever it is you're doing, I have no doubt it's going to be the highest quality. Um, and I just want to say that. So
Dude, that means a lot. It really does. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for saying that, and it's good to have you in the world, and in my world, because I said that even to like Stacy and folks. I was like, I think this Andy's a good dude. He seems like a really good dude and genuine, and so I think you know it's good. I'm excited to follow your journey along, and hopefully we'll mash up on some other stuff in the future.
yeah, for sure, man.